Hello and welcome to XVD Bibles. My name is Ethan. So today I'm going to start a multi-part series on how to rebind a Bible from start to finish. So I'm going to be working on this throughout this month, and it will be multiple parts. I will probably put it in its own playlist, and it'll be a way for for anyone out there who's interested in getting into rebinding, for them to start rebinding from the ground up. So I'm going to try to cover things, comprehensively from beginning to end. And the way I'm going to do that is that, I have multiple Bibles that I'm working on right now that are going to be non-commissioned projects. And what I'm going to do is, you might not follow this exact Bible from start to finish, but I'm going to do like one stage on one Bible, and then I might switch to like the next stage on the other Bible. But, if you watch all of them, you'll know how, every part of the process works. So that's the plan. All right. So this is going to be the Bible I'm working on today. I haven't done anything to this Bible other than just pull it out of the sleeve. This is a CSB large print. Let me double check. Yeah, CSB large print personal size reference Bibles. This is going to be a non-commissioned project for this month. So if you like the CSB, you're going to be able to see this, at least most of the way be rebound, and then I'm going to sell it, once I'm done with it. So this is a really nice text block. I've never read from the CSB before, other than, just doing reference lookups here and there, but I really like this edition. It has really nice print in it, nice big text, 2-column paragraph with, after verse reference, which is really interesting. And what's cool is that this is a Silverline edition. So today the plan is going to be, we're going to be taking off this imitation leather cover, and start with the block prep by doing, the art gilding. I'm not sure if I'll do the ribbons and the headbands and tailbands in this video yet, but I'm gonna just see, how far I can get, today. So we'll definitely be doing, taking off this imitation leather cover and, doing the art gilding. So the plan for this Bible is that I'm going to be doing blue under silver art gilding. I have a really nice color called French ultramarine. So that'll be the color blue that I use for the art gilding. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So for when you go to take off like the imitation leather covers of these, I do this a different way depending on how much extra, thicker cardstock I have right here. But, on this Bible, there's not very much. So I'm going to want to preserve this sheet here, at the front and the back. So this sheet is going to be where I attach my tab to once we get to that point. And the same thing with back here, I don't have, a bunch of extra cardstock in this Bible. If this was a Crossway Bible or a premium Bible, I would have like a good 4 to 6 pieces of cardstock here to work with. But this Bible only has this cardstock here, and you immediately jump into a map. So I don't want to be attaching my tab to the map or anything like that. And I definitely don't want to be, attaching my tab to the presentation page. So the way I do this is that you can see here, there's a little line running down this text block, or this, under this cover, under this, paste down liner here. And that's the reinforcement from the factory, and I want to preserve that when I go to take off this cover. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to use just my cutter here, and we'll just go ahead and get started. Also, what I do with Bibles like this, I've already done this, but just so out there, if you're rebinding a Bible for a customer or for yourself. Before you start cutting into the cover, you definitely want to make sure that there's no defects in the block. The big things to look out for is that you want to make sure that all of the signatures are, there's not a wonky, signature, one that's, sticking really far forward. And you also want to make sure that none of the pages are miscut. So sometimes you'll have like a page folded over here that's been pressed really far down so that you won't see it. You often can't see it if you're just looking at it this way. You actually do have to like flip through the Bible to be able to see it. But I've already done that. So definitely want to make sure your block doesn't have any defects from the factory before you go, and obviously there's a point of no return with this. So yeah. Also, before I do this process, I always like taking taking the ribbon out, because I like to take the ribbon out because I don't want the ribbon like harming like the gilding or anything like that. So the trick with this is that I want this liner. So I obviously don't want the cover, but I want the liner paper. So you can do this a couple different ways. Like Jeremiah from Frost Leather, he'll cut here, and then take a pair of scissors and cut this way and peel out. And that works for him. Sometimes I do it that way. And sometimes I just try to do it this way. So. So really the trick with this is that you want to preserve as much reinforcement from the factory as you can. There we go. So I'm going to take the stock headbands off because we're going to be replacing those with nicer ones. So the plan for this Bible is that I'm going to do a silver line cover, or a silver line style. So it'll be let's see. So it'll be blue under silver, and then it'll be navy Horween Chrome Excel for the cover, and a lambskin liner. Figured that would be a good non-commissioned project to do for anyone out there who's in the market for a custom Bible. That's what I want. I want this first page to stay intact, and the plan is to, right before I'm going to, clean up my spine, do all of that, and I'm going to be gluing this little flap down and then putting my book cloth over it, and then that's where I attach my tab. So. And I don't have to worry about all this gunk quite yet. We'll be taking that off when I put this text block in my book press and do all the ribbons and stuff. That's what that's when I do all that cleanup. So I got my dirty mat here, and we'll go ahead and do the art gilding. It is easiest to do art gilding when your block is when your cover's off. All right, so this is the color we're going to be doing, French ultramarine, and it's a good kind of medium blue. It is I think it's a little bit darker than the cover here, but that's the plan. I like the Ranger archival inks a lot, and I have these re-inkers here because if you if you're in this industry for a little while, these will start to just dry out and get used up. So I use the re-inkers to make them re-ink them. So I don't know, the condition of this color, this ink pad yet. So I might have to re-ink it on camera here. So we'll see, we'll see how it goes. So I've already done a video on how to do art gilding. So I'm not going to do like extensive commentary on this, but let's see. I have started using cotton balls for doing art gilding, and I really like the consistent ink that they put down. See, I really like this blue color. It is a little bit darker, and it's kind of a cool tone blue. It's kind of like on a Bible, it kind of looks like a grayish blue. It's quite nice. I don't often do blue under silver dye, edge dye, just because there's not very many blue under silver Bibles, or there's not many silver gilt Bibles out there. There's only a few. So the trick with this, as I mentioned in my other video, is to just like constantly be, re-inking your cotton ball, and just always keep things moving, and just make sure you have a nice even coat. So, and obviously you need to press down, on my ruler here a lot. So yeah, it looks pretty good for this side. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. It's gonna look awesome. Switch sides. So I don't fan my pages like all the way as much as I possibly can. I kind of like doing it somewhere in the middle. I like the pages to be kind of like a nice 45-degree angle, or maybe something a little bit more shallow of an angle here. Because if you fan your pages too much, the sides of your you're going to get a lot of ink on the pages. So I had someone ask in my comments of that original video why can't I just keep the Bible like this and rub the ink on? It's because the gilding, the metallic gilding that's on the edge of the pages, that's going to prevent your ink from really even settling into and getting soaked at least somewhat into the pages. Your ink is just going to run off and wipe off. You have to fan the pages because that gilding will prevent you from even being able to see that ink. So I think that looks pretty good. I love this color. It's a gorgeous blue. Again, this is Ranger Archival ink, French Ultramarine. So I've found that when you're doing this, when you're doing like the first couple coats, it's good to use like really small strokes, but at the end, it's good to just do like some long strokes, because then it like blends all of your, makes the ink look very, very consistent if you do some long strokes. So. Man, that color looks awesome. Color looks really cool. All right, so did this side, do this side. So I just keep my ruler here to keep consistent pressure and to also protect, this end sheet here, or this fly leaf, from getting a bunch of ink on it. So a lot of rebinders will charge people to do this, and they don't charge very, very much. Usually like $10 or $15. But I don't know. I don't like charging people for this just because it's so easy, and I do it for free. So, all right, looks pretty great. It's going to be a beautiful Bible, hopefully, Lord willing. You can do some strokes like this on the art gilding, or on the gilding like that, but yeah. So I got the French ultramarine. Got this last year when I was doing a one of those New King James McLarens, and one of the blue letter Bibles. And I got this color because I thought it would. I looked at a bunch of samples of all of the Ranger inks, and I thought it was the ink that best matched like the New King James McLaren blue letter color that they chose for that. And I think it matches like just about perfectly. So if you are a fan of the New King James, as I am, and you want a really good Bible to rebind, then McLaren is definitely one. And this French ultramarine Ranger ink matches that blue letter really well. So, and I'll probably get more blue colors in the future, but again, I've never, other than that first person who requested it, I've never had another person ask for a blue ink before. So there we go, nice and consistent. Nice and consistent. So you'll notice if you start doing this, your bottom few pages, just because of how the block kind of folds over, those are going to look not well covered in ink. But when you close the Bible and kind of like partially open it, you'll see that those areas actually are well covered. I think this might need a little bit more, but don't like over apply ink on the top and the bottom, because when these blocks like fold over like this, those signatures are the ones that will like kind of be sticking out the most. So you don't want to over apply to those sections. So yeah, I think that looks pretty great. What do you think? All right. So again, I have enough time for a little bit of block cleanup, and this will be part 1. So if you do this out there, give you a higher angle here. So if you start rebinding Bibles yourself and you get a book press like this, you definitely want to mark a top side, because you need to know which direction you put your text block. So I'm relatively experienced in this. I've done about 60 rebinds before, and I still put I have just really recently put ribbons upside down, which is embarrassing. So definitely mark your top of your book press, and make sure your text block, when you go to put it in your book press, is right set up. I've also occasionally I've put like a little up arrow on this little paper right here to mark, which way is up. So. All right, so for block cleaning, I use a couple different tools. I like this little tool. This is designed for actually for working with clay, and I have started using this tool, and I really like it. So this one's been one of my go-tos. I also like using a little awl. This is just such an nice all-purpose tool. So what this little spatula thing enables me to do is this glue from the factory just kind of will come off in a big flake. And this tool is great for just kind of working that stuff up. So. So obviously when you're doing this, you want to be very cautious about using, these are all blunt tools. So you want to be cautious about, I do use sharp tools to scrape my spines on occasion, but you want to be very cautious about using a blade on a spine. Specifically, obviously, like if you're cutting this way, you definitely never want to be cutting this way on your spine. I will use a blade and like kind of cut this way, but you don't want to be damaging the signatures of your text block. So I generally, if I can help it, I only use blunt tools for this process. So. So if you start really getting into this, you'll start to get a feel for which Bible publishers and printers do the best job at reinforcing your spines and producing Bibles that are easy to clean up. This one is actually pretty simple. There's a number of blocks that I've seen out there that they essentially use like hot glue on their spines. A number of vintage NIV Bibles use hot glue on their spines, and the only way to get that off is with a soldering iron. So when you're doing this, I do think it's essential to have a completely clean text block. You want to be able to see the signatures back here before you do your reinforcement and your headbands and your ribbons and all that. So, because you want to ensure any amount of reinforcement from original reinforcement from the factory is going to make your text block more stiff and is just not going to be a premium product for either yourself if you're doing this for yourself or a customer. So I always ensure that absolutely as much of this reinforcement and gunk is removed from a text block. All right, so continue cleaning this block here. I had to step away from my desk for a moment, but so once you remove all of the glue, and the old reinforcement, you're still going to be left with kind of a paper covering here. And believe it or not, I found that the best way to get all of that off is actually with a little bit of water. So I just take a little bit of paper towel and just dampen it lightly with a little bit of water, and then just daub it on here. Not enough to soak through the signatures. Obviously, this doesn't do anything harmful to the block. It's just enough to soak through this little layer of paper here, and then I just scrape it off pretty easily. So you obviously don't want to be pouring water onto a Bible. You want to be very carefully applying it. So you want to add just enough where this layer of paper becomes very transparent, and you obviously see the signature the signature stitches here. And then I scrape it off with my blade, not the sharp part, obviously, but just the blunt part right here. So and I'm really not using that much pressure to get this stuff off. Maybe just the weight of my arm. So I've noticed with most factory Bibles, this line of black blocks up here is almost always the top of your text block. So that is kind of one way to tell if your text block is oriented properly in your book press. Looks pretty clean. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do our layer of reinforcement here, and that will be the final stage of this video. And then in part 2, I'm gonna be working on the headbands, the tailbands, the ribbons, and the Oxford Hollow. So this here is book cloth. This stuff is very, very inexpensive. So I'd recommend just getting the proper stuff. And I have that in my materials list in the description. So I don't put my book cloth the full height of the text block because I don't think it needs that much. So I normally do between the first and last signature line. So if you can see here, these are where the signatures are all tied together. I do it from here to here. And you want to make sure there's plenty of overlap on, this side and this side when you go to do this. So, yeah. Got my PVA glue here. So I don't, you know what? One thing that I want to do, is that, no, that's enough. Sorry, disregard that. I was wondering if I wanted to round this text block or not, and I think it's sufficiently round already. So I can do a separate video on how to round a text block. That's kind of like an optional type thing you can do. And text block rounding is, you need to do that with a clean spine. And I was just trying to think, like, do I want to do that on this one? And I think that this text block is already sufficiently round where I don't need to. So you just need a nice layer of glue, and I don't do like the full height reinforcement. I do from the top signature to the bottom signature, but you still want glue, like a smallish medium coat of glue, just the full height of the block. So the reason why I think adding, what was I going to say? So when I do these, I kind of think of my head and tail bands as kind of top and bottom reinforcement, which is why I don't put it, all the way up. So you will want to kind of press the book cloth around the corners, because you want like a pretty clear, you don't want, how do I explain this? You don't want, you want your transition from the flat of your block to the curved part of your spine to be really sharp, if you can manage that, because that will make your finished spine, once it's attached to your cover, look more clean. It's kind of more of an advanced consideration if you're more of a novice and less of a beginner. So I make sure my book cloth is like kind of tightly pressed here, so that there's you want like a nice edge right here. And that'll make, when you go to measure for your spine backing material, when you go to do your hubs, if there's a really nice kind of edge or transition right here all the way down, if it's really obvious and not just like a blunt rounded corner, when you go to measure for the width of your when you go to measure for the width of like your craft text that you put behind your hubs, you want that to be a really nice line of demarcation. You don't want it to be super round, in my opinion. So need to make sure this is just all pressed in. And I do like putting one light coat of glue, over top of it. So what's funny about doing this, I'm only on part 1 and I'm already starting to see this. It's like how I've done so many of these. I've done like 60 of them at this point. How do I articulate why I do things? Because what words do I use to articulate, how I do all of this? Because I've done it so many times and I haven't had to explain, some of the nitty gritty stuff to anyone. Like what words do I even use to describe like why I do certain things? It's kind of funny. Anyway. All right, that's good. So that's going to be the end of part 1. So we have taken the original cover off of this text block. I have done my art gilding, and I have done my reinforcement. So for part 2, I will be doing my headbands and tailbands, my ribbons, and my Oxford Hollow. Thank you for watching. This is Ethan from Xvideo Bibles.